Good afternoon, and let me apologize to you as I have to God for not consistently giving you the things I presently have at my disposal to give to you. Like many people, I am guilty of not giving you what I have to give because instead of focusing on what I have to give, I found myself focusing on what's missing and what I need to get, like food, shelter, money, and all the things money can buy. This for me because life has been a struggle for a long time now, oftentimes representative of a battle for sheer survival. I've been just generosity away from being homeless, uncertain many times whether I would run out of gas without money to refill the tank, uncertain about what and how I would eat, and not able to afford many of the things I have desired. For me, having these conditions persist for some time now has created a battle of wills. My will to have the things I desire, or God's will, and for me to trust that He will ensure sustenance for me, trusting that God ensures sustenance in the water to sustain the fish so long as the fish remains in the water. Well, too often I must admit that I jumped out of the water trying to find fish independent of the element that God created me and created to sustain me. Too often I admit that I found myself more concerned with trying to get what I deemed that I needed instead of giving what God had already given me to give to others, telling myself that God full well expects me to support myself and to be responsible for the commitments that I've entered into. Well, this has created a battle or a struggle within me. And my situation is one that many can relate to, which has invariably caused me to focus more on what's missing and what's needed instead of what's present to give. I've constantly found myself thinking more about me and what's lacking in what I possess than with realizing that there's still, in spite of the situation, so much that God still expects me to give. I struggle because I developed at an early age bad habits. Throughout life, I've made a lot of bad choices. I possessed a bad work ethic. And if being completely honest, I must admit that oftentimes I've thought that my will for me has superseded everybody else's will for me, including God's will for me. And let me say that the result has been a battle for survival. But the good news about the causes of my struggle is that they all are things that I can change. I don't blame my mother. I don't blame my environment in which helped to rear me. I don't blame my ethnicity or gender, nor do I blame the prejudice of others. For me, it's about personal accountability and personal responsibility, knowing that there are battles God expects me to fight, and then being honest enough to realize that I've chosen to fight some battles that He never intended me to have to fight. And anytime you take a fish out of water and he attempts to survive outside of his element, what you'll find is that same fish struggling in a battle for survival. So for a brief moment, I want you to look with me at some of the battles that we engage ourselves in, looking at some of them as battles that God expects us to fight, And then I want to also point out some of the battles that we engage ourselves in that God never intended for us to fight. And this all to help us in our progression forward so that we can begin to improve this earth and the people that God has placed in this earth, so that we can be lights, so that others may see our lights and allow us to be examples for them in their walk through this earth. But before we look at the battles of humanity, I want you to always keep in mind that you must be before you can do, and that you must do before you can have. This means that all of the improvement that we are ever to see in the earth begins with us. All of the improvement you want to see in your home begins with you. All of the improvement you want to see with your children begin with you. All of the improvement you want to see in your job or in your career begins with you. You must be before you can do, and you must do before you can have. Again, this means that it all begins with you. You get to choose your battles. You get to choose your direction, realizing that we all possess the power to be the spark that causes a fire. And I'm going to classify the battles we fight using the categories of good or right and wrong. And this is just simply to denote differences. So I'm going to, for a minute, look at what I deem to be the right battles to fight. And in classifying them under the label or category of right battles brings me to the battle that I consider to be paramount. And that's the battle within ourselves to become good fruits. Now, I've mentioned this as paramount because if you think about a fruit, what you'll soon come to realize is that all the work that the fruit does to become healthy is done to benefit others. I'll say that again. A fruit only works to become beautiful, only works to, possess a richness in nourishment for the benefit of others. The sole purpose of a fruit is to provide nourishment to others. So I said that this is paramount because you can become a fruit that provides the emotional, the spiritual, and the physical nourishment to others. It's paramount because if you think about and you believe the faiths that look to the Bible as the guidebook, then you will realize that God's first words that he spoke to humanity were to be fruitful. And again, a fruit's only purpose is to serve and to benefit others. So then if God's first word spoken to humanity according to the Bible is to be fruitful, that says to us that he expects us to do the things that we do that so that they benefit others, to improve ourselves and the conditions in this earth that he's given us to occupy. Again, we should fight the battle to become more transparent and honest in our dealings with others. But you can't be honest and transparent in dealing with others unless you will decide to be honest and transparent when dealing with yourself. Too often we lie to ourselves or we blame others for situations that we've placed ourselves in, when the truth of the matter is that we're not being honest and transparent with ourselves, because many of us have willingly walked into situations that Having hindsight, we can look back and realize that it was all us that made those decisions. So again, the battle that we must fight is a battle to become fruits, good fruits. Then we must fight the battle to become more transparent and honest in our dealings with others and ourselves. It doesn't mean that I'm saying that you've not been honest in your dealings with others, but it does mean that we can all make the choice to become even more honest and transparent in our dealings with others. Again, we must understand that the golden rule, as Jesus spoke, was to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. For this is the law and the prophets. So then that means that if you wouldn't want someone to lie to you, you should fight the internal battle within yourselves to be honest with others and not lie to them. Because it's a battle that you can fight and you can be successful at. This is a battle that you can win at. You may never completely eradicate hunger in the earth, but you can win the battle to be transparent and honest in your dealings with others. You may never eradicate discrimination in this earth, but you can win the battle to become a good fruit that provides nourishment, spiritual, emotional, and physical to others. These are battles that you can win because they are battles that God created and expected you to win. Thirdly, we should fight the battle to become better stewards of our finances and our other resources. I'll say that again. Many of us have placed ourselves in situations that has created turmoil in our lives because we hadn't been good stewards of that which we've worked to obtain. We hadn't been good stewards of that which God has placed in our hands. So again, we should fight the battle to become better stewards of our finances and our other resources, realizing that we can be examples for others to follow. Realizing that the more we have, because we've been good stewards over what we have, the more we can give. But if you have nothing, it's difficult to give. As the old folks used to say, you can't get blood out of turnips. You must be a good steward over that which you have so that you are able to give of that which you've obtained. Again, this too represents a battle that you can fight and you can win. You may never win the battle to improve, India or the lives of those over in Africa, but you can decide that you're going to win the battle to be a better steward over your finances and over your other resources. You too can fight the battle to become a better friend. A friend that's more supportive, more patient, more tolerant, and a friend that's a better listener. You will be surprised that this will make more of a difference in a person's life than most things that we throw at people. Learn to be a better friend. Learn to be more supportive. Learn to be more encouraging. Learn to be more patient. Learn to be more tolerant. Learn to be a better listener. Because those things that when you impart them into someone else, then those are seeds that continually give. Because as you've given it to them, they are now able to give to someone else. This is a battle that you can win. You can become a better friend. You can become a better steward of your finances. You can become more transparent and honest in your dealings with others. You can become a good fruit that provides nourishment to others. Yes, God created us and He expects us to fight the battle to become better parents. Realizing that God has given us some of his greatest, most precious gifts in giving us children. And he's given us children because he expects us to accept the responsibility that he created us and gave us his most precious possessions so that we would mold them into becoming successful in life. Possessing responsibility, possessing respect, possessing love, possessing purpose, possessing direction, possessing honesty, and possessing a desire and a willingness to serve him and to serve others. Yes, parents, this is a battle that we can win. Our children will ultimately be responsible for their own actions. I concur and do understand this. But there's also a role that we must play, and we must accept the responsibility for training them in the ways that they should go. This is a battle that we can win. It's a battle that God expects us to fight. He also expects us to fight the battle to resist hate and violence, realizing that hate only produces more hate and that violence produces more violence with ample retaliation. I don't know very many people that you can just walk up to and haul off and slap and expect that they're not going to retaliate. Well, in the same way, you give and it shall be given unto you. If you resist hate and violence and replace that with love, then you must understand that as you give it, so shall it be given unto you. Good begets good. Love begets love. Violence begets violence. Hate begets hate. The battle to love and not hate is a personal decision that we can all be successful at. And if you think about it, it's less harmful to you physically, emotionally, and spiritually to love than it is to hate. Hate causes ulcers. Hate causes stress. Hate causes all these feelings in our bodies that's not associated with life, with liberty, with love, with peace. God created us to fight the battle, to resist hate and violence. He created us to choose in the battle of hate versus love, in the battle of violence versus peace, to choose love and peace. This is a battle that you can win. In spite of all the people that would come against you and would bring negativity in your life, would bring all these things that are meant to destroy and to adversely affect you, you still have the responsibility and the ability to choose love and peace over hate and violence. We can choose to dislike without hating. We can choose to deal with a situation without having disdain. And we can choose to forgive and then move on, realizing that we have all done things or have given others reasons to perhaps hate us. I'm guilty. I don't know about you, but I've certainly done my share of things to others. Not proud of it, not boasting about it, but just being real about it. God expects us to fight the battle to become more positive. Too often the weatherman will tell us that there's a 30% chance of rain. And what do but focus all of our attention on the 30% chance of rain instead of realizing that in that 30% chance of rain, there's a 70% chance that it's not going to rain. I want you to get that, because too often we allow things that we hear to shape our beliefs, shape our perceptions, shape how we move about in our day. But realize a 30% chance of rain equates to a 70% chance that it may not rain. Too often we focus on what's missing instead of being grateful for what is present. I'm guilty. I'll be the first to admit that it's what's caused me not to be consistent in giving you what God has given me to give to you. And I don't mean to minimize struggle, because there are some real occurrences that we have to deal with in our struggle. But despite the struggle, a positive outlook is always better than having a negative one. And you can control your outcome. That's a battle that you can fight and a battle that you can win. God expects us also to fight the battle to become more courageous, realizing that courage isn't the absence of fear, but rather our actions despite our fear. You must realize that there's been countless situations in your life that you've already shown tremendous courage in throughout the entirety of your life in your moving ahead despite your fear. So I only encourage you to become even more courageous as you move from where you currently are to where you want to be, because there's something that you can control that will allow you to move forward, and it's your ability to find the courage to move in spite of your fear. That's a battle that God created you to win, because the world needs more courageous people that will stand up for Him, that will stand up for good, and that will call evil evil wherever evil is found. God expects us also to fight the battle to resist seeing a person's religion as the definition of the person. Too often we try to define people based upon their religion, instead of seeing a person's heart and character through his action. Well, we are all our actions. We are the result of our actions. We're not the result of our religion. We're the result of our choices and our actions. So then why is it that we choose the battle of seeing people through the lenses of religion? Because we must realize that if all the religions in the world suddenly disappeared, or if all of them were suddenly proven to be false, that humans would still exist. We would still walk the same way. We would still talk the same way. We would still have these bodies that we occupy. We would still have the internal organs that make us who we are. So then that would say to us that absent our religions, we are defined by who and what we do. We are defined by what we do. So then God would have us fight the battle to resist seeing a person through his or her religion, but instead seeing the person's heart and character through his actions. Because again, we are who we are, absent religion. This is why when Jesus of Nazareth walked the earth and he preached to those that he ministered to, the only labels that he used in defining and describing man was the labels of good and evil. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart, an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart. Good cannot bear evil. Evil cannot bear good. But too often, we will only allow ourselves to see a person's religion, and then we will use that religion to define the person. Well, you can choose to be successful in deciding that you're going to see a person through his heart and his actions, instead of being like so many. That's why they said the road to hell is wide and many will choose it, but the road to life and salvation is one that is narrow. Don't, just because everybody else chooses to see people through their religion, feel like you've got to do the same thing. You can make the choice to fight that battle and decide that you're going to see a person absent his religion, absent his labels, and then see his heart and his action. God expects us to fight the battle, to in all things be a transparent example of excellence, so that others may see something that they can emulate and follow in their own lives. Again, let me say that God expects us to be examples of excellence, and you can fight that battle and you can win, because there's something in all of us that says it's okay not to work as hard at this that you would at something else. There's something in us that says, it's okay to lay around and not be excellent in everything that we do. But then there's also something in us that's yearning for excellence, that says to us, yes, you can, and yes, you can be excellent at what you're doing. So then I only encourage you to fight the battle to become an excellent example in all that you do, so that others may be able to see what you do, emulate what you do, and allow what you do to be an example that they're able to follow. Each one is truly expected to teach one. And if we're going to teach others, we may as well teach them to practice excellence in all they do, by allowing them to see excellence in us. This you can control. You control what you allow others to see. You control if they will see a picture of excellence, not because you've accumulated a large amount of money, not because you live in this big fancy house, not because you drive the Maybach or the Mercedes, but because your life, whether it's in the day or in the night, whether it's on Sunday or whether it's on Friday, is a picture of one who exemplifies excellence in thought and action. Again, God expects us to fight the battle to become good finders. Realizing that there is not a prize in finding fault in others. Too often, we spend a considerable amount of time focusing on what somebody else did wrong, instead of realizing that though they may have done something wrong, there's a lot of right in what they did. There's not a prize in being a fault finder, but there's a battle that wages within us that causes us to choose whether we will seek to find good or whether we will seek to find fault in others. We must simply make the commitment to see good in people in the same way that miners search for gold. And my point is that when miners begin digging for gold, they fully know before going in that they're going to have to encounter a lot of dirt. They know that they're going to have to dig through a lot of dirt. But because they're not focused on finding the dirt, but in finding the gold, their perspectives are different. Their actions are different. The things that they focus on is different. They focus on finding the gold instead of dealing with the dirt. Well, we too can fight the battle to focus on finding the good in people instead of finding the fault. Because if we're true with ourselves, there's dirt in all of our lives. And if every time you encounter somebody, they was in a search for your dirt, then too often they would find it. Too often they would find it. But we can choose today to be successful in being good finders. We can choose that right now. We can choose that right now. We can choose that right now. But just to point out some of the things that I believe that God doesn't expect nor want us to be fighting, some of the battles that we choose that I don't believe he wanted humans to have to fight, is the battle over him. I don't believe that fighting over the creator of heaven and earth is a battle God wants us to fight. Because the truth of the matter is that we're all created by the same God, who billions of years ago created heaven and earth. The same God that some call Allah, some call Jehovah, some call Yahweh, some don't call by any name. There's still irrespective of our human perspectives, one God who, before he created humans, billions of years ago, decided to create heaven and earth. And from that beginning, all humans have all been part flesh, mostly water, occupying fleshly bodies, with the Spirit of God indwelling in us that causes our sustainability in the earth. Yet, we fight battles as if there's more than one creator God. As if somehow one God said, okay, I'm going to create this subset of humans, and then I'm going to stop and allow another God to create another subset of humans. As if one God decided, okay, I'm going to create over here in the east, and then my job is done, and I'm going to allow another God to create over in the west. And we fight over things like this instead of realizing that irrespective of the different names we may call him, irrespective of the different perspectives we may have of him, irrespective of the things the differences in the things that we attribute to him, that before there were humans, there were God. Before there was humans, earth existed. And before there were humans, the same God that created the earth is the same God in the beginning as he is in the end. So yes, I agree that we should fight the battle of good versus evil, because God's will is for good to defeat evil. But last I checked, good wasn't exclusive to any era of time. It wasn't exclusive to any geography, nor was it exclusive to any group of people. Because Christians are capable of doing good and evil. Jews are capable of doing good and evil. Muslims are capable of doing good and evil. Americans do good and evil. Palestinians do good and evil. In fact, we are all guilty of having done some good and some evil in our lives. And those things weren't directly shaped by our religion, though they may have been indirectly shaped by our our individual religions. But God is God in the beginning. God is God in the middle. God is God in the end. And just because we change our perspectives in the middle or the end doesn't change God in the beginning. So yet we fight over God when, if the truth be told, as he said in speaking to one of the prophets, were you there in the beginning? Were you there? Can you say definitively what I am, who I am? Because our learning is only a result of what was learned prior to it being taught to us. But even before there were humans, there was a creator God that created the heavens and the earth. So fighting over God is a battle that he never intended us to fight. Fighting over the right religion of God is not a battle that he wanted nor wants us to fight. Because as Jesus of Nazareth said, by their fruits will you know them. Didn't say by their religion, didn't say by their geography, didn't say by their ethnicity, didn't say by their day of worship, said by their fruits shall you know them, by their ability to benefit others, by their ability to nourish, provide spiritual, emotional, and physical nourishment for others, will you know them. Again, as I said, humans have existed long before the first human religion was ever thought about or thought of or invented in the earth. And again, we must realize that in the same way that God wasn't concerned about the people that walked the earth before religion existed, he was, just as he wasn't concerned about their religion, he's not concerned with ours. Because again, as Jesus said, the tree is known by the fruits it bears. Didn't say that you should know them because they call themselves any particular name that is affiliated with a religion. He said, by their fruits shall you know them. A tree is known by the fruits that they bear. That's why he also said, not everyone who called him Lord shall enter into heaven, but only those who did the will of the Father. So fighting over religion is not God's will. Fighting over God is not his will. But yes, fighting over good versus evil, that is his will. Fighting over political parties is a battle that God didn't intend for us to fight. Because murder is not right simply because Republicans might call it right. Just as discrimination is not wrong simply because Democrats call it wrong. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Murder is murder, whether you're Democrat or Republican. Murder is evil, whether you're Democrat or Republican. Discrimination is wrong, whether you're Democrat or Republican. Helping others is right, whether you're Democrat or Republicans. There are Republicans who think providing a safety net for people is right, in the same way that there are Democrats who think that providing a safety net for humans is right. But what happens is we allow these political parties, because we show more allegiance to the political party than we show to each other, to almost blind us to the reality that absent these political parties, we're still all humans who still all occupy the same earth, who still is created by the same creator God who in the beginning created the heavens and the earth, who are still all one people that are interdependent of each other. Will we all think the same thing? Absolutely not. Will we all go about life doing the same things? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But we can all choose to become fruits that benefit others. We can all choose to become more transparent and honest in our dealings with others. We can all choose to fight the battle to become better stewards of our finances and other resources. Yes, we can choose to fight the battle to become better friends in being more supportive, more patient, more tolerant, and better listeners. We can choose to win the battle to become better parents. Yes, we can choose, because God expects us to choose to win the battle to resist hate and violence. He expects us to choose to win the battle in becoming more positive. These are things that we can choose and win at. We can win to become. We can choose and win in the area of becoming more courageous. Yes, we can win the battle in resisting our desire to see people and to define them based upon their religion. Yes, we can choose to win the battle also of becoming better examples of excellence. And lastly, we can choose to win the battle of becoming good finders. There are many other battles that we engage in that deserves recognition and to be addressed. But for the purpose of helping you, I will just ask that you consider your battles and begin with the battle to become a better you. Realizing that you must be before you can do, and that you must do before you can have. Realizing that when the person is right, his world is right. I leave you with the words or the encouragement to let you know that you are created to win. And you're created to win by helping others to win. There's a part that we all play in this thing called life. That's why God created us all interdependent of one another. The farmer needs the truck driver, just as the truck driver needs the store, just as the store needs people to come in and patronize it. We're all in this thing together, people. And it all begins as an individual choice to fight the battles that God would have us fight. And to put away fighting battles that He never intended us to fight. Choose you this day your direction. And as you take one step, God will help you take another. Until next time, I love you. I thank you for your listening. And be a good finder today. Tell somebody that you not told in a while you love them. Shake somebody's hand with a smile. Help somebody that you see along your day, in your day, that may only needs a smile. I mean, you have to understand, we never know what people are going through. Never know, because we've become experts at hiding our issues. But just find somebody today. Give them a hug. Give them a smile. Be a good finder. Tell them that they can. Help them to do. Trusting that God, as you've given to others, will give to you. Thank you and goodbye.